Hi, I'm Mike Potter, and I'd like to welcome you to the True Wealth Financial Show, a show dedicated to providing you the information and inspiration to navigate financial decisions, intentionally build wealth, and retire with confidence. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Additionally, you can find more information and resources on our website at truewealth.show. And now, let's get on to this week's episode. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the True Wealth Show. As always, thanks for taking some time to watch and listen to this week's episode. So glad that you're taking the time to invest in your financial future. Today, I want to continue on our conversation regarding money management and give you some practical techniques on creating a budget. If you've never made a budget, this might be helpful for you. Or even if you're a regular budgeter, you might get some additional tips here. In our last episode, we talked about the benefits of budgeting and why it's absolutely critical for your wealth building and retirement planning transition. So the question is, if it's so important and if it's so critical, why do most people not budget? Why do they not have a spending plan? Well, there could be a couple reasons, and maybe just more than these, but one might be they just don't know how. And so we're going to help try to address that today. Maybe they've never been taught, right? Just like any other skill, you have to be taught that skill. Maybe you've been abused with budget, right? You've heard your parents or your spouse or others, someone else say, it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget, we can't afford it, and so maybe your mindset regarding a budget is not a favorable one. Maybe you feel like you're in a straitjacket, like you're kind of being restricted by a budget. A budget is a mechanism to control yourself, and the reality is of controlling yourself is it's meticulous in nature, right? It's detail oriented. It's repetitive. You have to continue to do it all the time. It's not very exciting. It's not very sexy. In fact, a lot of times it's just downright boring. And that's why some people don't do it. As we talked in the last episode, a budget or a spending plan is the most powerful tool you have when it comes to building wealth. Because if you don't control your money, everything else is just theory. And the same is true for retirement planning. If you don't have good money management skills and know what you need and when you need it and where it's coming from, everything else regarding finances is just theory. It's not real. So how do we get started in creating a budget? Well, it starts with getting some awareness of where you're already spending. So what I would recommend is to take some time, maybe on a Saturday morning, maybe on a Sunday afternoon, maybe on a Thursday evening. You basically push everything away, tell the kids to go hang out for a while, turn off the TV, put down your phones, stay off the computers, and just you sit down with your spouse ideally, and you guys start laying out some understanding of what expenses do we have. And so you sit there with a yellow pad and your phone with a calculator on it and pull out the bank statements and your pay stubs and the bills, or if you get them online on bill pay, you kind of jot them all down. And the other thing that's really, really helpful in creating a budget is a calendar. Because as we talked about previously, money moves. So as life moves, so does money. So if you have events on a calendar coming up, you're going to need to allocate money towards it. So how do we actually go about creating a budget? Well, there's 3 rules for creating a budget. Rule number 1. Each month gets a new budget. There's obviously high correlations between time and money, and a lot of things are going to be consistent. Generally, people eat at the same places, they buy the same food, they travel the same spots and things like that. So month to month, about 80% of your budget or spending plan is going to be the same. But no 2 months are exactly the same. Why is that? because of life events, right? Money follows events, life events. So for example, in May, you have Mother's Day. So you might want to buy something for your mom or for your mother-in-law or for your wife, right? So, but you don't have Mother's Day expenses in September. Father's Day is June. So in June, you might have that expense. There's certain anniversaries or birthdays that occur in some months, but not in others. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about Christmas. Christmas, I don't know if you know this or not, but is in December every year. So your October, November, December budget might look a little bit different for Christmas than maybe what you would have in May, June, or July, right? Most people take vacations. Well, when do they take them? Spring break, summertime, or around Christmas. So those months when you take vacations, you're going to have more expenses than the months you don't, right? So there's no such thing as a cookie cutter budget. Will there be overlap? Will there be redundancy? Will there be commonality between budgets month to month? Absolutely. But no 2 months are the exact same. And that's part of the problem. People try to take this cookie cutter approach and make everything the same every month, and it doesn't work. So rule number 1, each month gets a new budget. Rule number 2, you have to account for every dollar. You're going to give every dollar a job to do. You're going to have a plan of what's going to happen. The reason why is because you don't want lazy money. We don't want money just laying around without a purpose or a job or a plan of what it's going to do, because you know what happens? It'll just disappear. So we want to have a starting point of where exactly every dollar's going to go. So we have to know in the next coming month, how much money are we going to bring into the household? If you have irregular income, we'll talk about that in some of our advanced techniques. But for now, just start with what you think is coming in. If you're paid consistently, monthly, bi-weekly, twice a month, or weekly, you know what's going to come in. So you put that at the top of the page, and then we need to give every dollar a job. But again, it's just a starting plan. May not be where it ends up. Think about it. If you're going to go on a drive, maybe for an hour-long drive somewhere, you have a plan of how you're going to get there. But something might occur on the way. There might be an accident. There might be an oil spill. There might be a road closure. And so you have to take some sort of detour around. Well, just because you hit a roadblock doesn't mean you stop and you turn back home. You basically figure out a way around. Same thing with budgeting. You have an initial spot of where it's going to go, but life might happen. You might get a curveball. You might get a monkey wrench, and so you have to adjust. But at least you have a starting plan of where it's going to go. And again, we'll talk about adjustments again in a future lesson. Right? So that's rule number 2, account for every dollar. Rule number 3, household first. Right? You have to prioritize the important things over the urgent things. Right? So what are the number 1 priorities? Food. Right? Food is the first thing that should go in your budget, because if you don't eat, you essentially die. Right? And so food's kind of important, right? That is one of those needs. I get a lot of clients a lot of times about when they say, I need this or I needed that, and they really just mean they wanted it. But food is a need, so it should be first. Utilities, keeping the lights on, water, trash, gas, sewer, maybe internet. You can put internet in there if it's utility and you certainly need it for work and things like that. Right? Number 3, housing, right? Rent, mortgage payment, things associated with that, needed repairs that have to be done because they're causing issues. Then obviously transportation, getting to work, car payment, car maintenance, gasoline, car insurance, things like that. Those are the 4 walls. Those are the most important things you have to have, because if you have all of those things covered, everything else you can get to. Everything else is secondary. Do you want to pay for all those other things? Absolutely. But if you're in a constrained environment where you're struggling to make, the bills, if you will, these are the things that have to get prioritized. Not the credit cards, not a new outfit, not even entertainment. These are the core things. If there's money left over, absolutely, we do all those things. I met with this one lady a long time ago when I just started doing coaching. Wasn't really coaching her, but we were just talking. She knew I was kind of getting into it, and she couldn't wait till Friday. And I was just I couldn't get over her exuberance for a Friday. And I just asked her, what's so big about Friday? She goes, we get paid. And I said, okay, and what's so big about getting paid? She goes, well, I haven't eaten in a couple of days, and so I'm really looking forward to buying food. She was behind on her bills, had collectors really hounding her. If you've been through that, you know what that's like. That is no fun. And so she got pressured in and made an emotional decision to quiet them down by basically paying her, and took her food money and paid them and had to wait a couple of days to eat. That is a wrong prioritization. So when it comes to your budget, you take your household first, your household first, and then everything else is secondary, right? In Timothy, it says, he that provides not for his own house is worse than an infidel. So household first, then we take care of the other things. All right, so those are the rules. How do we actually go about creating a budget, right? 3 steps. Step number one, kind of mentioned before, is forecast your income, right? Generally, it's pretty simple. You look at the month ahead, and that's why you have the calendar again, and you look to say, okay, I get paid this day and this day, so I get paid 2 times, or I get paid this day and this day and this day. It might be one of those magical 3 times a month. Maybe you get paid twice a month. Maybe you get paid every week, and you have 4 or 5 paychecks, right? And you generally know how much you get paid, and so you put that on the paper first, yellow paper, on the app, whatever it is that you're using. You basically start with that, right? And it's known money. We know this as much as coming into the house. So if you're in sales or commissions, things like that, if you have statements before, you know that this is coming in. It's not hoped for money. It's not money that might come in. It is known money that we know is hitting our bank account from either wages, commissions, sales, or business transfers from your business accounts, but known money. So you forecast your income, step number 1. Step number 2, account for expenses. So we already talked about, you start with those 4 walls, right? If you don't know exactly how much it is for food or gas, that's again where you look at your previous statements, that awareness that you have. You can look at Walmart or Target or Giant or Food Lion or Publix, wherever you do your grocery shopping, add all those numbers up and it'll give you a baseline. Is it going to be exact? Probably not. It's going to take a couple months for you to hone these numbers in. But start with the awareness and get an idea. Food, I can tell you, is always a tough category, especially for guys, right? Because generally, historically speaking, it's probably stereotyping, but it's just a fact. Stereotypes are the way they are because of facts. Most men don't do the grocery shopping. Most women do. Most women do most of the shopping, right? In America, the women are the main consumers of, buying products. Everybody knows that, right? So if you think you need, $200 for groceries for a family of 5 for a month, you're probably wrong, sir, right? So ask your wife, whoever does the shopping will probably have a good idea of what should go into that. But it's one of those areas that's always tough. Right? Things like electric bills. Hopefully you have the bills from the previous month where you can look at what it is. You'll know what your rent is. You'll know what your mortgage is. Right? And so you account for expenses. You start with those 4 walls and then you look at the calendar. We have a baby shower coming up. We have this party for this at church or at work. Right? Things like haircuts, personal care. Those are the things that you're going to forget about. You'll know your bills, you know your needs, you know your monthly expenses, but the one-off stuff is kind of a little bit difficult. Right? Maybe, especially for ladies, they don't get their haircut like every month. Sometimes guys do. So maybe every 3rd month, you're going to get your haircut done as a lady, right? So is this a month for hair or is it not? Trash is another one that kind of have a lot of times like that free month, gotcha, right? Free month, gotcha. So is the trash bill due next month or is it one of those free months, right? So you have to basically account for all your expenses. Rule number 3. Then you continue going down the list until you have allocated every dollar. So we have our income and we have expenses and we have a number that's left. And we have another expense and a number that's left. And we continue to go until we have given every dollar a name. And so income minus outgo is 0. It is called a zero-based budget. Every dollar has been given an initial plan, an initial starting point, an initial job. And here's the thing, if you add up what you have coming in and what you have going out and you have negative number, that means you're spending too much. So you got to go back and adjust some of those things. If you take what you have, your income minus your expenses, and you still have a positive number, that means you haven't allocated enough. You need to go back up and reallocate it. Now, keep in mind, just because it's allocated doesn't necessarily mean spending. So if part of your goals is to save, you're building an emergency fund, you're saving for intentional goals, you're investing, things like that. Savings aspects are okay, but it has to be prioritized towards spending or savings, where it has to be given a spot to go. So I'm going to move over to do a quick screen share here, and I'll show you a very basic example. So to help illustrate this, I'd like to give this notional example. So in this basic budgeting aspect here, this person or this couple makes $3,200 a month. So where are they going to spend it, right? So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to do some giving. So they're going to do some giving of $320. So we see their total income minus what they're doing for giving. This leaves $28.88 remaining. And then they buy some food. So they spend $400 on food, and we can see the balance go down. And they pay their electric bill of $150, and the balance goes down. And then they pay their mortgage, and they have less money. And then they pay their kind of ridiculous car payment here, and so they have now less money. And then they pay a pretty high cell phone bill. Again, notional example here, but you can see that they have $3,200 in. They've allocated all of their expenses, and their balance is zero. So that's how we do zero-based budgeting. So again, illustrating that same notional example here in the actual spreadsheets. Again, these spreadsheets can be found at truewealth.show on the resources page. So again, this person or this couple had $3,200 a month. So we put the amount that we forecasted for the upcoming month at the top of the page. Then they were going to do some giving of $320. And so what this does is it adds up each category and then shows you here we started with $3,200 at the top. We have so far allocated $320, so we have $28.80 to go. All right, and then they're going to buy some groceries, so $400 for groceries. They have an electric bill of $150, so we're going to put that on there. The mortgage was $1,400, so we'll put that on there. They have an auto loan, right? So they maybe put their auto loan here, and the balance of the loan is maybe $10,000. We can put that there if we want to as well. And then they have a cell phone bill, right? So here we could put $380 for the cell phone bill. And so now we can see that they have $3,200 at the top. $3,200 is budgeted, and so they have a zero-based budgeting. And FYI, just with these, if you want to, you can change the name of these. So maybe it's Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T, and you can rename them as well. Okay, so I hope that helps you how to go about creating a basic budget. Okay, so as we wrap up today's episode, I want to help you out by giving you some basic budget forms. So if you go to truewealth.show to the resources page, you will find a basic budget form in two formats. One in Excel that you can use, convert it to numbers if you're a Mac person, as well as a PDF if you just want to print it and write on it. You can download them and use them. So that is your micro action for the week. If you have not been budgeting consistently, give it a try. Use the forms I provided there. Use a yellow pad. Get some kind of technology tool that, again, we'll unpack those in a future episode in the advanced tips, that whatever you want to do. But you have to get control of your money, and doing a budget or simply having a spending, it's a plan of where you're going to spend money before the month begins, is the best tool that you have with regards to building wealth and planning your retirement. So next week, we'll take a little bit of break from money management, and we'll talk about Christmas spending plan, because December 25th is right around the corner. It'll be here before you know it. So I hope this helps you on your financial journey. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments below, or you can send me an email at mike@thetruewealth.show, mike@truewealth.show. I will try to answer every email that I get there. And until next time, I hope you have a great day. Thank you again for taking the time to watch this week's episode of The True Wealth Show. I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Please feel free to visit www.truewealth.show for more information and resources. One final note as we wrap up today's show. While I hope the information you've been provided has been insightful and valuable for you, it's really for information and educational purposes only. Prior to making any decisions or taking any actions, I'd strongly encourage you to reach out and talk to your legal, tax, estate, or financial advisor who's familiar with the unique circumstances of your situation. Thanks again for taking the time to watch it. Hope you have a great day.